Welcome to the Demolition Daily. I can't believe it's day 5, and amazingly, I still haven't run out of things to say. Haven't run out of new hats to wear either. Speaking of things to say, we've been doing this for a full working week now. This is our 5th episode of the Demolition Daily live stream. And I've become very, very aware of just how this technology has allowed me to stay in contact with people within the industry and beyond without having to leave my own office. So if you are stuck at home, if you're on your own, if you want to get something off your chest, or if you just fancy a chat, give me a call if you got your number, if you've got my number. If not, my email address should be going across the bottom of the screen right now. Drop me a line. Let me have your telephone number, and I'll give you a video call. It won't cost you a dime. You never know, you might even enjoy it. And I'm certainly not planning to broadcast it, but if you do fancy a chat, you know where we are. We do have a guest lined up for a bit later in the show. We were hoping to originally have Cantrack's Peter Thompson on the show, but he's been replaced at the last minute. We're going to the very capable hands of their head of investigations, John Mussett, who will be talking about protecting equipment when sites are closed, which obviously is increasingly the case. Before we get to John and to that discussion, just a couple of quick updates. In addition to the PPE campaign that is being spearheaded by Paul Kluski over at Cantillon, there's now a new campaign that's calling upon the asbestos sector to use their skills to help local hospitals. That campaign's being headed up by the chairman of Mail-Arch, Nick Williamson. You can read more about it on demolitionnews.com now. I think it's the lead story at the moment, so you can pop on over there and have a look. Alternatively, you can scroll down on Demolition News, find the third episode of the Demolition Daily live stream, which you're watching now, and you can hear Nick talking about it in person. So, a couple of campaigns that the industry can really get behind and possibly help with. That's the upside of what's going on at the moment. The downside, am I normally in the business of naming and shaming? Yes, I guess I am. And in this instance, I'm going to be naming and shaming Balfour Beatty. Balfour Beatty took to social media, primarily LinkedIn yesterday, to post photographs literally boasting about the fact that their sites are still open, about the fact that they've moved their canteen benches a little bit further apart to ensure that they are practicing social distancing. At a time when anybody with any sense whatsoever is packing up and going home or has already done so. The very fact that they tried to build a positive PR spin out of something that is so crass and insensitive, it just beggars belief. And I responded to that. Literally hundreds of other people responded to that as well. But they actually managed to compound that because they're keeping their sites open, where anybody wearing a high vis is still expected to go to work. And then this morning they announced that they've cancelled their annual general meeting. So the message that Balfour Beatty appear to be sending out loud and clear during a global pandemic is: if you wear a suit, stay at home, stay safe, don't put yourself in harm's way. If you wear a high vis and a hard hat, tough, carry on. Hope you don't catch it, but if you do, there's probably plenty more where you came from. I've said it before, I'll say it again, and I will continue to say it right the way through this crisis. There won't be a day of reckoning. I'm not naive enough to believe there will. But I sincerely hope that when we come out the other end of this, that people will look back and consider the way that some companies have acted, positively and negatively. I would like, hand on heart, I would like nothing more than to see the likes of Cantillon and Mail-Arch absolutely prosper because of the way they've behaved in the last few weeks or the last few days. I'd quite like to see Balfour Beatty crash and burn, given what they're doing at the moment. Moving on, I took a phone call last night, out of hours, as is the case these days. I don't think there's any such thing as in hours in this business at the moment. I write for a living. Words are my tools, and I try to cut to the quick and try and explain things in the best way possible. And I must admit, because this COVID-19 thing has come completely out of left field, there are times I've struggled. I've tried to draw analogies with recessions and world wars, but none of that really does the job. And we've still got people going to work when perhaps they shouldn't. We've still got sites open when they certainly shouldn't be. And I've been trying to convey that. And somebody phoned me last night. I won't name names because they asked me not to, basically. And he asked a question which just put the whole situation facing demolition and construction into completely sharp focus. We have a situation at the moment where our hospitals are stretched beyond breaking point. Despite all the the applause that the nurses and doctors quite rightly got in the streets of England yesterday, they are stretched. They are stretched beyond belief. Now, we in construction and in demolition work in a high risk environment where accidents happen. They happen far too often, but they happen. What if there's an accident now? What if somebody gets hurt? No, I'm talking even a minor injury. What if somebody gets, I don't know, a piece of dirt in their eye and they have to go to hospital? For one thing, they are going to be putting increasing strain on an already stretched NHS, which seems madness. But also, they're going to a hospital that might well be not infected, but you could be there at the same time as other people that are infected. Surely that is good enough reason for people to say enough's enough. Let's close sites. Let's close them for 2 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever it might be, and let's all regroup and come back stronger and renewed afterwards. Instead of which, we've got the likes of Balfour Beatty still sending people out there. I just find that incredible. And another point that was raised on LinkedIn again last night, I seem to be spending an incredible amount of time on LinkedIn. There's a lot of conversation going on there. Somebody raised the point about the fact that we've got workers going to sites, demolition construction sites, and there is every likelihood that one or more, possibly dozens, possibly even hundreds of those workers could be infected, could end up dying, or could pass on the virus to family members who die. Now, to my mind, the health and safety executive have been notable by their absence throughout this. So, assuming that their investigators are all tucked up safely in a nice warm front room while everybody else is out in their hives still working, will they be holding the major contractors to account? Will they be recording the cause of those deaths? Will they be part of the annual statistics? Will we get to the end of the year, and whereas we're normally talking 30 or 40 fatalities, we'll be talking several hundred, and there'll be a big COVID-19 written alongside them? My guess is that's probably not the case, and it should be. It absolutely should be. Let's move on before I start to get all wound up again, which is kind of what I do. Given all that's going on at the moment, it seems like a very, very strange to be talking about crime and criminality. We've got most of the civilized world now in crisis. We've got nations on lockdown, and people are literally fighting to survive. But sadly, there will be a criminal underclass that will see COVID-19 and all that goes with it as an opportunity to be exploited. Where you and I look at an abandoned demolition or construction site, we see a picture of the situation as it is at the moment. We would see a portrait of jobs lost, men and women left unemployed. There will be others, though, that will see that as an all-you-can-eat buffet filled with unprotected plant, just ready to be spirited away. So to talk about that, as I said earlier, we were hoping to have Peter Thompson from Cantrack. Instead, we've got, all things being equal, we've got John Mussett, also from Cantrack, former police officer, and now Cantrack's head of investigations. Welcome, John.
Hi, Mark. How are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad at all. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for stepping into the breach at the last minute. I've just been alluding to the fact that we do have a situation where we will soon have, well, we've already got, but we'll have even more sites that have been not abandoned, but closed up in some of a hurry, given all that's going on in the world. There will be a lot of plant, equipment, vehicles, that kind of thing that have been left behind, and there will be, unfortunately, a part of society that's rubbing its hands together, thinking we've hit pay dirt.
Absolutely. I think, unfortunately, the way of the world these days, there will. Lockdown sites. It's a little sweetie shop for our light-fingered friends, unfortunately.
Yeah, we just had a comment coming in there from Neil Crawford, who said it's already happened in other sectors. 10 grand's worth of metal stolen from Lancashire Railway, East Lancashire Railway in Bury. You know, and that is the situation. I know Cantrack has been very, very quick to put some resources in place, but you know, just generally before we get onto that, what is your advice to, you know, particularly demolition firms, but demolition construction firms that are today is their last day for the foreseeable future? How do you leave a site that's secure, particularly with demolition? I mean, demolition has a nasty habit of happening in back alleys in the middle of nowhere where it's out of plain sight, isn't it?
Indeed, absolutely, Mark. It's a difficult call, but I think you've just got to make sure that there's as much security as can be put in place. You know, locking down a site, high security padlocks, make sure the fencing's as good as it can be, and blocking all your machines in, you know, as best you can, interlock all the machines. If you can immobilize them in any way, obviously using asset trackers like our own is another good thing, which you can set motion alerts on. Anything like that is going to help.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, this is one of those horrible instances where, to a degree, some people will be closing the door after the horse has bolted. You know that there has been a rise and rise. I've been following the progress of the likes of Cantrack and other people in that sector. There has been a growth in the use of that kind of equipment, but not everybody has got that privilege at the moment, have they? And I'm sure there will be a few people up and down the country that are kicking themselves right now that they didn't invest and protect their equipment when the time was right. You know.
Absolutely, very true. But we're still here to offer, you know, advice to anybody in the industry, within construction and demolition industry. Some of it seems, you know, fairly common sense stuff. You know, interlocking excavator arms, putting the arms down on machines like telehandlers, so it makes them more difficult to shift. Don't leave stuff near the perimeter of your site. We've had a lot of instances recently of smaller machines being hired out of sites. Just physically lifting them over the fence onto the back of the flatbed wagon and driving them away. So some of it common sense, some of it maybe not so much. But if you go on cantrack.com, you'll see our document. It's free to download, have a look at. Hopefully it will help.
See, we've got that strange position, haven't we? Like, I've seen a few bits and pieces on the news over the past few days where you've got police patrols randomly stopping vehicles to find out why people are travelling and that kind of thing. But as soon as you put a high vis on and a hard hat on and drive a low loader, you're almost excused that, aren't you? That's people going about their business. You know, even if you are one of the light fingered brigade.
Absolutely, you know, we call that hiding in plain sight. That's a lot of the times how they steal from sites. They will turn up when things were normal before the COVID-19 set upon us. They would rock up at a site either maybe an hour before it was due to open in the morning, or conversely, the favourite would be just after it had closed at night, wearing the hard hat, wearing the high vis. Anybody sees them think they're just moving machines around when actually they're stealing them.
So it's early days. I mean, personally, I'm only 5 days in. I know the rest of the world is probably a little bit further than that. But have you actually seen a spike yet, or is that something you're just anticipating and preparing for?
Both. We've been spiking, should I say, for the last 3 weeks. We've had a massive amount of theft going on, and yeah, our investigators are busy. We've got 7 guys scattered around the UK and Ireland, just waiting to go out and recover our customers' assets with the assistance of the police, which I might add, the police have been fantastic so far. Obviously, they're suffering as well. You know, they've got a lot of staff who are self-isolated or off sick, which is having an impact on them. On the plus side, obviously not quite as much traffic about, so they can still help us out when it comes to recovering stuff.
Yeah, you and I spoke before we came on air about when your local police force. You said he's down. A police force of 1,200 is down 200. You know, but hopefully all of those are just precautionary and are in self-isolation, and they'll all recover. But you know, that's a big number of police officers off the beat, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely, it is. I don't know if that's improved. That was a stat from last week that I got from a former colleague who's still serving. You know, the people taking the advice of the government, obviously, to self-isolate if they've got any symptoms, because that's the only way we're going to beat this thing, is by doing that. But obviously, yeah, the police are going to be affected, like our good NHS are going to be affected. Obviously, they're right in the front line of it.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, how does this impinge the COVID-19 crisis and the precautions you need to take? How does that impinge upon your ability to do your job? You know, when you go out on an investigation, is it just one person? You know, when you arrive and you know there's Are there 2, 3, half a dozen police officers? How does that work?
I can speak from the jobs we've done this week. So our investigators will work alone, so they'll be travelling alone, work from home. So there's no issues with that. We would contact the force that we are travelling into just to confirm they're happy with us to travel, necessary travel, which so far hasn't been an issue. And then obviously, yeah, you're keeping your distance when you're meeting up on scene with police officers. Yeah, we've had good responses. We've had successful recoveries this week, no problems at all, touching wood. And the police are able to, at the moment, assist and fulfil their role in this.
Yeah, it's such a difficult situation, isn't it? And plant theft is bad enough as an issue in itself, but the very fact that they are potentially tying up, as you say, resources that could be used better elsewhere is just remarkable, isn't it?
Oh, it is, but yeah, unfortunately, some things just don't surprise me anymore, I'm afraid. Hoping 30 years in the police service didn't make me cynical, but to some degree it did, I'm afraid. And
a fortnight in journalism made me cynical, so you're doing pretty well, I think.
In good company. Yeah, it's any opportunity. Beggars believe sometimes, but yes, give them any opportunity.
Now, I've written about plant theft for more years than I care to mention, but and the old story is always, it's hidden away for a little while and then it's shipped off overseas. I guess that's not going to be particularly straightforward at the moment, is it?
Very true. We tend to get on stuff before it goes abroad. We've done numerous recoveries abroad in the past, but yes. It is going to be the more difficult one, I think. But having said that, freight is still moving. They're obviously encouraging the transportation of freight, and we don't check as thoroughly stuff going out the country as we do stuff coming in. And that's how they manage to get it out the country as often as they do.
No, absolutely. Okay, so John, listen, it's been great speaking to you. I will put a link when we put this video out on YouTube and on Demolition News. We'll put a link to the resources, but it is, I'm trying to do this off the top of my head. I think it is literally cantrackglobal.com, isn't it?
It's www.cantrack.com.
Cantrack.com. I've read through the advice myself. It really is a very good resource. And thank you to you and the team for putting that together in such short order. Hopefully, we can protect the plant that's out there and keep the police busy doing what they should be doing rather than chasing around after Herberts that are stealing equipment.
Indeed. Yeah, hopefully so. Hopefully so, Mark.
Many thanks indeed for your time today, John. All the best.
Yeah, no problem. Stay safe.
And you. So there you have it. That's a situation in plant theft. Unfortunately, it goes without saying that there will be that criminal underclass out there that sees this as an opportunity to make a few quid off the back of others less fortunate than themselves. I wish that wasn't the case. It would be nice to say if everybody was a little more careful about where they bought their equipment and their plant. Maybe this is a problem that would go away. But it isn't, unfortunately, and unfortunately, given the situation that we find ourselves in at the moment, where every pound note is going to be doubly valuable, I think the trade in stolen plant, stolen equipment, stolen vehicles is unfortunately likely to spike. So make sure you go over to cantrack.com. As I say, I'll put a link in it to on Demolition News to it. You can have a look at that. It's well worth a viewing, particularly if today is your last day. What is it now? It's 3:20 in the afternoon, so there's probably still time to take some of that advice and hopefully secure some of your equipment. We will be back again next week. I've said this numerous times and I will keep saying it. I've committed to doing this every day that the COVID-19 crisis is going on. The feedback that we've had has been remarkable. I mean, we're literally getting tens of thousands of views on this live stream now. Generally not as a live stream, but as a video afterwards, particularly over on Instagram. We're running these as an Instagram TV or an IGTV show, so there's lots over there. If you follow us on Instagram, you can catch up on all of these. All these episodes are also over on YouTube, so you can catch up there. They're also on demolitionnews.com, so you can catch up there as well. On a more positive note, I put out a piece today entitled "This too shall pass. I've nicked the title. I've nicked quite a bit of the content as well, to be honest. But it's just trying to put a more positive spin on the situation that we all find ourselves in at the moment. As I said before, it's very, very hard to put into words something that you've never witnessed before. But as a species, the human race has been here before. You know, we had the Black Death plague that swept across Europe, killed like a third of the population way back in the 14th century. We've had a couple of world wars that killed millions and really showed humanity at its very worst. But on both occasions, humanity has bounced back, and we will bounce back from this. I'm sure there are lots of people out there that are, like I am, worried about finance. But as somebody literally before I came on air said to me, and it's a phrase that will stick with me, but I think throughout this, you can get out of debt, you can't get out of a coffin. And you know, if a few more main contractors and tier ones would listen to that, I think that would be we'd be in a slightly better position. But going back to that, the article that I've written, we are a very adaptable, a very resilient species, and I think even more so here in demolition. Demolition people live with risk day in, day out. They are resourceful. They're adaptable. You know, they overcome challenges on a daily basis, an hourly basis at times, and they're made of sterner stuff. I stole completely. You know, I will readily admit I plagiarized whenever possible. To be honest, there is a lyric from a song that my daughter introduced me to a few years ago. The actual lyric is, you see a mousetrap and I see free cheese and a fucking challenge. I've toned that down slightly, but that, to my mind, really sums up what demolition is. You know, where other people see a challenge, or where other people see a problem, we just see a challenge. And this is one of the biggest challenges the industry has faced. And I have no doubt whatsoever that the industry will rise to that challenge. I've already seen it. You know, the way that some of the contractors have responded with the campaigns at Cantillon, at Mail Arch, the way that I think we are at the point now where it's the majority of demolition contractors, or UK demolition contractors at least, have taken the sensible approach, sent their men home to be safe and tucked away with their families. I think that shows what demolition is really all about. I wish a few more people would take a leaf out of their books. From what I understand, this bullying of contractors or demolition contractors by main contractors is still going on. I'm aware of one company that basically told their client that they were going home to be safe. They'd assessed the risks and decided the risks were not overcomable. And within 24 hours, they'd had a threatening letter to get back to work. Their time will come. Their time will come. In much the same way as I said earlier, you know, I hope those companies that are looking after their staff, those companies that are helping back the NHS and the first responders, I sincerely hope that karma looks favourably upon them in the future. If Mail Arch and Cantillon and other companies of that type see a spike in their turnover and their profits next year, I should be the first to stand up and salute them, because they deserve nothing less. If the likes of Balfour Beatty crash and burn, I will dance upon the ashes. But that's a whole other story, and that's just a personal thing. I think I've probably waffled on for plenty long enough. I thank you very much indeed for joining us, and we've had a couple of comments come in. Just have a very quick look at one here from Lee Playford that just says, "Hi Mark, hi Lee." Yeah, good of you to be here. Good of anyone to be here, to be perfectly honest. I realise that you've all got much better things to be doing than listening to me babble on every day. But we will be back here again on Monday, 3 o'clock or 3 p.m. UK time. Please join us. Haven't actually figured out who the guest will be. We're still working on that. That's if there is a guest. Otherwise, you just have to listen to me and check out whatever hat I choose to be wearing on that day. On that note, stay safe. Have a good weekend. Spend some time with your friends and family, assuming that you can do so. Look after yourselves. Be here again on on Monday. And the offer that I made at the beginning, I'm not just doing it as a throwaway. You can still see, hopefully you can still see my email address going across the bottom of the screen there. Drop me a line if you fancy a chat. I'll pick up the tab. Don't worry about that. I'll pay for the phone bill. I'm on obviously on this video chat, but we can FaceTime. If you can't bear to look at my face any longer, we just do it over the telephone. But I'll be here throughout. I'm a couple of weeks into self-isolation. I'm fairly sure now that I'm okay and I'm safe and well, so I'm going to be here for the long haul. So look after yourselves. See you again on Monday. Stay safe. Look after yourselves. Look after each other. See you again very, very soon.